close. In English it's on?
Yeah, on YouTube and English Facebook.
Oh, okay. Alright, just a sec, devotees. I'll get the verse.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Alright. So just another second. You can close that. Right. Devotees, let's see. 35. 35. Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu chavacheshvano pravishtana pravishtani tatateshu nateshvaham. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Yes, right. So let's read another paragraph. Right, another paragraph. Excuse me. The impersonalists cannot imagine or even perceive that the Supreme Brahman is thus all-pervading, and therefore they conclude that there is no possibility of his personal form. Herein lies the mystery of his transcendental knowledge. This mystery is, this is very important, this mystery is transcendental love of Godhead. And one who is surcharged with such transcendental love of Godhead can, without difficulty, see the personality of Godhead in every atom and every movable or immovable object. And at the same time, he can see the personality of Godhead in his own abode, Goloka, enjoying eternal pastimes with his eternal associates, who are also expansions of his transcendental existence. This vision is the real mystery of transcendental knowledge, as stated by the Lord in the beginning. Sarvasyam Tarangam Cha. This mystery is the most confidential part of knowledge of the Supreme, and it is impossible for the mental speculators to discover by dint of intellectual gymnastics. The mystery can be revealed through the process recommended by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita verse 38 as follows: Premanjana Churita Bhakti Velochanena Santasadaiva Hridayeshu Velokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami, which means, I worship the original personality of Godhead Govinda, whom the pure devotees, their eyes smeared with the ointment of love of Godhead, always observe within their hearts. This Govinda, the original personality of Godhead, is Shamsunda with all transcendental qualities. And let me just read on a little further. It's such an interesting point. Therefore, Although he is present in every atom, the Supreme Personality of Godhead may not be visible to the dry speculators. Still, the mystery is unfolded before the eyes of the pure devotees, because their eyes are anointed with love of Godhead. And this love of Godhead can be attained only by the practice of transcendental loving service of the Lord and nothing else. The vision of the devotees is not ordinary. It is purified by the process of devotional service. Sri Giri Govardhan, Shri Gornitai Ki Jai. In other words, as the universal elements are both within and without, similarly the Lord's name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, etc., as they're described in the revealed scriptures, or as performed in the Vaikuntha Lokas, far, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. The man with a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand, although by material science one can see things far away by means of television. Factually, the spiritually developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. That is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. What do you think of that, devotees? That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And wonderful. I'll read the verse again. Yata mahanti bhutani, bhuteshu chavacheshvanu, pravishtana apravishtani, tatateshu nateshvaham. O Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time I am outside of everything. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastitya Deshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Right, so the Lord is very extremely extraordinary person and extremely wonderful person, and can be perceived, can be seen, and not just perceived or seen, but one can develop a very personal relationship with him. Very personal. But only by one means, only in one way. Other attempts just will not work. Like Prabhupada mentions, the impersonalists, and then also he mentioned, what was it? The mental speculators. They try to discover him by mental gymnastics, by straining their brains. And even not just straining the brains, but like straining their senses. Just like we mentioned the other day, and many of you, I'm looking at you, about half of you have glasses, more than half of you have glasses on. So, you reach a certain point and you pretty much have to wear glasses, otherwise you just can't. It's sort of dissatisfying looking. And of course you can't read a lot of things, or you reach a point you can't read anything actually. So in this way, people, by wearing glasses or having a hearing aid, are we okay? Oh look, is it a devotee? It's something like a devotee anyway. Oi, 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 oi. Ah, he's hiding under the computer now. I wouldn't worry about him too much. They're not poisonous, are they? Some of them are. Anyway, yeah. Right. Strain the brain. We've all been to school, and by making that effort at school, you become increasingly able to at least understand things, and even you could say to see things, see how things are working, but at least understand. But Krishna, first of all, understanding, and then secondly, seeing Krishna, it's a different process. It's a completely different process. Although one has to make an effort, as we mentioned, being at school, you have to make an effort, otherwise you'll fail. Yes, and it'll be disappointing. But if you make the effort, then you can succeed. So in Krishna consciousness, you have to make the effort, but within Krishna consciousness, and then you'll be able to, first of all, gradually understand more, and then secondly, on a very advanced level, of course, it really is, you'll actually be able to see the Lord and speak with him, and he will speak with you, and even then you'll go back to Godhead and be within the pastimes. Who knows what part you may play? Perhaps you may be a cowherd girl, or a cowherd boy, or a parental older type of devotee. Yeah, all these different types of things are there to be experienced. And the simple fact is that if we really try our best to carry on the way we basically are, then it will come to that. Don't, as they say, don't hold your breath. I don't expect it'll be today, or hold your breath, in the next minute or two, if you can manage that. But it'll come. And that's the perfection of life. So, anyway, yesterday we read, and I'll just very briefly repeat, how that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and don't enter into the cosmos. We are in the cosmos. That this is the cosmos that is being talked about. And the universal elements are particularly earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and then also mind, intelligence, and false ego. So they have all entered into the cosmos, And we have some of each. Our bodies are partly earth. Whatever's solid is earth, actually. And our bodies have liquid, blood, and so on. And that is essentially water. Now, of course, blood is red, and water, just usual water, is clear. So what is this blood then? It's red, but it's liquid. So it is a combination of water and earth, or some aspects of earth. Yes, because earth has color. Water has no color. So we have some, each one of us has some blood, and so on and so forth. And so that we got because these elements entered into the cosmos. Actually, initially the elements, I mentioned yesterday the term, if you remember, reservoir. Reservoir. We're all, I imagine, we've seen the government's water reservoirs. I'm sure they have a number of them around Mauritius. And so they're big water supplies, and they're piped into our houses right here. They're just pumped right in. So, yes, so therefore, the element, so there is what is called the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva means the reservoir within, not just within the universe, within the total material existence. There is a sort of a place where you get these reservoirs of these different things. And then when the universes are manifested, the universes come out of the pores in the skin of Mahavishnu. These round universes sort of pop out and come floating out into the material creation. And we did mention yesterday that then the Lord distributes some of those air, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. These things are distributed into the universes, and from that point, Lord Brahma takes those things and puts them together into, among many other things, us. Yes. So that was the point, that the universal elements enter into the cosmos. But then Krishna says they don't also. What does that mean? It just means that the reservoir doesn't enter. The reservoir can't enter into the cosmos. Anyway, it can't enter into the universe, but it's dispersed, distributed in small quantities into each universe. So it may sound confusing. Universal elements enter the cosmos, this universe, and at the same time don't enter. But that's the idea. The reservoir remains. The reservoir has not now disappeared. The reservoir remains. And at the same time, Krishna himself is within everything, within every cosmos, every universe, and even beyond. He's within he's in every part of the spiritual world. the material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, they are not in the spiritual world. There are spiritual equivalents, but the earth, the water, etc., as we know them as material elements, they don't exactly exist in the spiritual world, but Krishna drinks. Krishna drinks. Yes. And we mentioned, what was it? We mentioned one of the evening programs. I forget which one. But we mentioned how Lord Brahma says in Brahma Samhita that in Goloka Vrindavan, for example, the water tastes like nectar. They have water. It's not like our water. It's far superior. Because our water, we all know water, it's very bland, you can say. It's just not like some, tasty, special, sweet, rich, creamy drink or something. It's just very bland. Although it's not just useful, it's essential for life. But in the spiritual world, all the water, they have water. It tastes like nectar. Many of you ladies are good cooks, I must say. I have personal experience, so I can say. So I'm sure when you want to, you can make a nectar drink. Some fruit ingredients, maybe some cream or yogurt or something, and honey or sugar, etc., etc. You know what I mean. And it's a nectar drink, and it's just extremely tasty. So Lord Brahma says, in Goloka Vrindavan, all the water tastes like nectar. Right. So, yes. So, all the earth, water, fire, air, and ether, etc., as we know them, they're within the material world, but they're like, what would you say, lower level forms of the same things which are in the spiritual world in much nicer, much better states. Like our bodies are temporary. In the spiritual world, all the bodies are eternal. Just, another example. But Krishna is within the material world and the spiritual world. He is the reservoir himself. And he is distributed. We are also parts and parcels of Krishna. Mama ivangso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 7, Mama eva angsa jiva. The jivas, that's us. He says, mama, my, eva means definitely, angsa, my parts. Yes. Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So we are parts and parcels of Krishna, of a certain category, and then there are other categories. Those categories which are on the same level as himself, which we are not. So all these things can be understood. And even here within this material world, we can understand these things. We can understand Krishna, and ultimately, eventually, we can come to see him. Yes. Prabhupada explains, well, we just read, Prabhupada quoted Lord Brahma, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Valochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Valokayanti. That the devotees, Santa means very elevated devotees, sadaiva, always, hridayeshu vilokayanti, they always see within their hearts Krishna, yam shamas sundaram, achintya gunaswarupam. They all see that Sham Sundar. How's that? Prema Anjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. Because their eyes have been treated with the ointment of love. That's how. So, sometimes we have to treat our eyes like, I wouldn't be surprised if someone here has had a cataract before. People get cataracts. Anyone had a cataract? Anyway, if not, I really hope you don't need one, because they're not nice. But when you get a cataract, as it develops, your seeing becomes worse and worse until you become blind, actually, unless you do something about it. Or just with old age, the power of the body becomes less. The power of the sight, the power of the hearing, all these powers which, when we were young, we were just, full of life. But these things become reduced and even lost, actually. Yeah, but if your eyes are treated with that ointment, like, I don't know about you, but me, every night I have to apply, not exactly an ointment, but a gel on my eyes. Otherwise my eyes dry out overnight. And in the morning they become red and eventually they become painful if you leave it for a few nights. So like this, to help our eyes, from time to time we may have to apply something. In this case you have to apply a special ointment, the ointment of love. You can't buy it in the chemist. Yeah. You can't even cook it up at home if you look on Google and get a recipe for some eye ointment, which I suppose you can, but it's not going to have that effect. So only that ointment of love. And yes, I was going to say, I think, that Srila Prabhupada talks about Prahlad. Prahlad, even as a little child, his eyes were purified with that ointment of love. So therefore he would just look around and he'd see the Lord here and there and everywhere, and in your heart and in the pillars, even these pillars, he would see the Lord. And he was only a small child, around 5 years of age, but he would be seen like this. And you know what children are like? They're very innocent and simple. And he assumed that everybody else was seeing the way he was seeing, including his father Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad was assuming that Hiranyakashipu was seeing the Lord. But Hiranyakashipu was not seeing the Lord because his eyes were not treated with the ointment of love. Rather, all he saw was just dull matter. So, as you know, from time to time, Hiranyakashipu would ask, and particularly right at the end, when it all builds up to this whole mighty climax, when the Lord appears from the pillar and then kills Hiranyakashipu. But in the meantime, and particularly just at that time, Hiranyakashipu would ask Prahlad, where is this God of yours? This Vishnu? You keep talking about him, but where is he? And Prahlad, innocently, not being cheeky or rude or trying to be smart or something, he'd just look around and say, he's everywhere. Simple. And Hiranyakashipu said, well, all right, is he in this pillar then? And Prahlad looked at the pillar and saw, there he is. And just in a very straightforward way said, yes, he's in the pillar. And Hiranyakashipu said, all right, then I'll kill him. And so just with his fist, can you imagine? Imagine punching this pillar hard with your fist. You could smash your fingers. Oh. But Hiranyakashipu was so powerful that that pillar was like this. It was really, really big and made like either just of stone, probably stone of some sort, or else some concrete or some sort of compound that they can make these super strong things from. And Hiranyakashipu was so powerful, he punched it, and he didn't hurt his hand, but he smashed the pillar. And then out came Lord Nrsingadev, who had been in there all the time. And, he's in here now too, if you want to take a chance, but I wouldn't recommend it. So that's Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. That's when your eyes are being treated by the ointment of love. Then first thing is you can understand step by step more and more. But second thing is you come to see. And that was the case with Prahlad. And I'm sure I've mentioned to you before, because it's one of these things that's stuck within my small mind. When Prabhupada was in Scotland, 1972, I was not there, but he was in Scotland, and he did a program in Glasgow, one of the big cities, which was extremely successful. There were I believe 400 or 500 just Scottish people, not a single Indian Hindu, who kind of knows about these things, but just people, materialistic people. And the people loved the program. Prabhupada got a standing ovation. They stood up and clapped for 5 minutes. But anyway, then he returned to the temple, which was in a separate city, Edinburgh, which is about an hour or an hour and a half's drive from Glasgow. So they got back, and Prabhupada was in his room, and some devotees gathered there with him, and they were saying, what a program that was, Prabhupada. That was amazing. And somehow this verse came up, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, how the pure devotees can see the Lord within their hearts. So one devotee quoted that verse and said, so yes, Prabhupada, the Lord Brahma says like that, devotees, pure devotees see the Lord within the heart. And Prabhupada said, oh yes, the pure devotees can see Krishna everywhere. And as he said that, he looked around the room. Oh, the pure devotees can see Krishna everywhere. And the devotees got the clear impression that Prabhupada was seeing Krishna by the sort of the tone and the mood in which he expressed himself. So this is how it works. This is the mystery. To learn on the material level, you can learn many things. You can learn how a language. You can learn to read. You can learn mathematics. You can learn to drive a motor car, etc., etc., etc. So many things you can learn, and you've sort of you just got to apply yourself. And if you really apply yourself, then even complicated things, eventually you come to the point where you can basically learn them and become, fluent in a language or able to operate some sophisticated computer system and all that. I read a funny thing, I tell you what. Funny but really interesting thing about learning a language. Because I learned Russian to some degree. But because I'm not practicing it, I'm forgetting it. But one man I read an article about learning a language, different levels of learning, different stages from like 1 to 10. So this man, he was American, but his family had come to America from Italy, and at home they spoke Italian. At home they spoke Italian. So every day, until he was 25, when he left home, he spoke Italian for hours every day. So then he left home and he went to work in Italy because he could speak Italian. I mean, he was sort of for someone in terms of learning, he was like on level 10, just fluent, like natural. And there he was in Italy now, and this fellow's telling his story, how he was traveling around selling or marketing something. And one night he stayed in not exactly a hotel, but a guest house, like a simple hotel. And there was no telephone in his room. So when someone phoned to him, he had to go down to the office to take the call. He happened to be outside his room when the call came, and someone in the office told another employee, "Can you tell that fellow up in room such and such, there's a call for him?" And the other person said, "Who?" And the office person said, "Oh, you know that foreigner, the one who can't speak Italian." Hare Krishna. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Having learned a language to a certain degree, I was officially on an intermediate level. So anyway, so to learn, you can learn so many things. And even you get materialistic intellectuals, and they learn Bhagavad Gita, particularly Bhagavad Gita, not so much other Vedic scriptures. If they know anything Vedic, they will have some knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavatam or the 4 Vedas, they don't know much about that. So some of them, they learn Bhagavad Gita off by heart, so they can repeat the whole thing. But because it's just academic, And they're not devotees. They're really not devotees. They're still meat eaters. They'll take intoxicants. And they just do it to make a living as like a teacher, a university lecturer, that sort of thing. So there's no question of developing love. Yes. So therefore they don't make progress and become Krishna conscious. So the mystery is not just studying it, but the mystery is developing love, and love is developed through rendering service. That's how the love is developed. Of course, beginning with chanting, which is service. It's a form of service. Yes, and then, as Prabhupada says, one who is surcharged with this love, without difficulty, sees the Lord even within every atom, not just within the heart or in some sort of particular manifestation, but within every atom. Yes. And antarasta paramanu chayantarastam, we read yesterday. The Lord is present within every atom and can be seen as such. So, this vision is the real mystery of spiritual life. And it's only accessible to the devotees. The impersonalists, even though they have some ideas in different ways, in many cases at least, but they cannot really enter the mystery. Just like I'll close by mentioning famous little story, you all know the story, Narada Muni and the cobbler. You all know that story, right? I'm sure any one of you could tell it. I don't need to tell you. Narada Muni and the cobbler. Cobbler's a very sincere devotee. Narada Muni's on his way to Vaikuntha. He meets the cobbler and he asks, is there anything I can do when I'm in Vaikuntha for you? Cobbler says, could you ask the Lord, will I ever go back to him? Narada says, okay, fine. Carries on, meets one proud Brahmin, and same thing. Can anything I can do for you when I'm with the Lord? And the Brahmin says, oh yeah, can you find out please when I'm going back to Godhead? I know it's going to be very soon because I'm so qualified. But there are a few things I want to sort of, loose ends I want to tie up before I go back to Godhead. So can just find out when. And Narada says, okay. And he goes and he asks. And the Lord says, that humble cobbler, such a nice devotee, he's going to come to me at the end of this life. But that puffed up Brahmin, he's such a nonsense, so proud, arrogant, that even though I am God, even I don't know when he's going to come back to Godhead, or if. And Narada was a little surprised, because the Brahmin, in certain respects, seemed to have qualifications. So the Lord told him, if you want to understand why I've said this, when you meet these people, tell them that when you were with me, I was busy putting an elephant through the eye of a needle, and just watch how they react. So he did that. First of all, he went back to the Brahmin, and the Brahmin asked, so what did the Lord say? When am I going back to Godhead? Will it be tomorrow? Next day? I know it's going to be soon. And Narada said, well, actually the Lord said, even though he's God, even he doesn't know when you're ever going back to Godhead. And the Brahmin got angry and said, oh, you're a nonsense. I don't think you saw the Lord. And Narada said, well, actually I did. And you know what he was doing? When I saw the Lord, he was putting an elephant through the eye of a needle. And the Brahmin said, oh, what rubbish. You can't put an elephant through the eye of a needle. That's ridiculous, get out. So he went to the cobbler, same situation, told him, yes, end of this life. Cobbler was so happy. And Narada said, you know, when I was with the Lord, he was busy putting an elephant through the eye of a needle. And the cobbler said, really? That's great. That's wonderful. My Lord's so wonderful. And Narada said, you sure you believe me? And the cobbler said, yes, of course, why not? He was sitting under a banyan tree. He picked up a banyan seed pod. It's sort of like a nut. And you can open it. And inside there are many little seeds. So the cobbler said, look, inside here, there's 100 seeds. Each one contains a banyan tree, you know, as big as this house, bigger than an elephant. So to put an elephant through the eye of a needle for my Lord, it's nothing. So you see, because he had love, he understood. Where someone without love, it makes no sense. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments or questions? Shalachandra Prabhu is not here. He's usually good with the questions. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna devotees.
Jai.
Hare Bol. И радоте, вы понимаете? Понимаете английский?
Нет, не все. Слушаем вас, отличается голос.
Okay, хорошо. Okay. Увидимся позже. See you later.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Be very good devotee. Acha. Oh, yes. Very good. You must chant every day, and you'll feel very happy. And are you Granny?
Yes, Granny.
Okay. Granny Radhastami will be very happy with you.
Lakshmi Priya.
Huh?
She is Lakshmi Priya.
She's Lakshmi Priya, but you're Radhastami. Okay. Bien bon. Hare Krishna.
Gone.